Hello, my name is Paloma Roldan, and for my portfolio project, I decided to create a fashion magazine titled #News. Okay, so for my target audience, I decided to make it 16 to 30-year-old women of a middle to high-end socioeconomic class. This is challenging fashion magazine conventions because the typical target audience age is 20 to 40-year-old women. I decided to challenge this convention because while researching for this project, I came across an article on The Guardian titled Vogue, Tatler, and Other High-End Fashion Magazines Target the Teen Industry, which explained how their fashion magazines are finding that there's a bigger market for the teen industry because they're more likely to buy a magazine than the typical middle-aged woman industry. This would greatly affect how I distribute my magazine because being that I want to appeal to a younger audience, I would have to adapt to their wants and needs and their customs. And they're accustomed to having everything digitally. So my magazine would be both a print and digital magazine, and it could be distributed through platforms such as iBooks. But I would also create a website and an app that would correlate with the magazine. That way I could better attract my target market. I would also print some magazines which would mostly be sold through subscription, although I would sell in few bookstores. The reason I wouldn't sell in any grocery stores and only in few bookstores is because I decided not to include any cover lines. And my masthead is on the bottom, which is already pushing the limit as to how many bookstores I would be able to sell it. Okay. So let me explain my cover now. For the first thing of my cover that I would like to talk about is my masthead. For my masthead, I decided to call it #News. The hashtag was used to better track my target audience. And muse, the definition of muse is a goddess who inspires a creative artist. This is something that I would like to portray in my magazine because I think that art is inspired by the real world, which is a theme that would play throughout the magazine. This is also portrayed through the cover image because in my cover image I decided to have my model wear no makeup and have a bit of messy hair, as you can see here. This portrays that this is a real life girl and no everyday girl. But I did want to split her face between an effect girl and a normal girl to emphasize a change that plays a common theme in this issue of magazine. In my cover, I also decided to include the selling line, fashion, culture, art, because these are the three words that I would want my audience to think of when they think of this magazine. I also decided to include the dateline going horizontal to break the pattern of the magazine. And the only problem with my dateline is that it's black, which kind of blends in with their black hair, but I think that it's still clear enough that people could read it. That pretty much explains my cover. Now my table of contents. For my table of contents, I decided to go with a very simplistic, minimalist theme, which is again a common theme throughout my entire magazine. Okay. So, something that I would want to emphasize is my font. It's a very straight and simplistic font that is carried on from the cover page and will carry through my editor's notes and my 2-page spread throughout the whole magazine. As for the image, as soon as I saw that I had to create a table of contents, I knew that I wanted my table of contents to be surrounding a shoe. The only issue for me was I didn't know what shoe, so I photographed 5 different shoes, and I think that Espadrille is the one that best correlated with the magazine and best was captured. So I went with the Espadrille, but I decided to add an effect to it because the shoe itself looks kind of plain and too cohesive with the table of contents. So by adding this effect and creating these shadows, I kind of changed it a bit, which still plays with like the color palette of my magazine of black, whites, and grays, but I also like gave it a little extra. And then for my actual articles that you can find in the magazine, I try to incorporate articles that would appeal to a younger audience. And I also wanted to show that like we try to research our audience and we incorporate that in the type of articles we make so that they could better appeal to them. Okay. And now I would want to talk to you about my editor's note. Okay, so for my editor's note, again, I used a very simplistic, straight font, but but for my image, I changed it a bit because, everything has been so black and white and gray and very neutral colors, but with this picture, when I put in all black and white, I think it just like blended in too much. So I decided to add the color in the champagne, which I think added like a nice pop of color. And then the cover image is an extreme close-up of the champagne glasses clinking between three girls. And then for the actual context of my editor's notes, I just wrote about what are the goals of the magazine and what we strive to deliver with this magazine. This is following typical fashion conventions because many fashion magazines do include an editor's note, an editor's letter, an editor's want, like fashion pics, and this is something that I did want to portray in my magazine. Okay, so now my 2-page spread. For my 2-page spread, I decided to change it up a little bit from the typical fashion magazine articles, and I decided to write about how fashion changes as we grow up. This is an article that I don't think has ever been written and like is very unique. I decided to write about this because I do believe that this could appeal to my target audience, being that it's a younger target audience, like we're still growing up, so like it like better appeals to them. For my first page of my 2-page spread, I just decided to write about how like why this happens and how this happens, and something that I do want to mention is that I wrote in a very casual tone to make it seem that like the audience, the reader, is having a conversation with the writer, like as if they were friends. This is a convention of a fashion magazine that I didn't want to follow. And then for my second page, I decided that like a cool way to like explore this topic is by interviewing 3 girls of ages: a child, a teen, and an adult. Something that I want to mention here is that I did have to alter a little bit the questions between the child, the teen, and adult, specifically the third one, because for the child, I feel like the third question really like helps emphasize that she doesn't pick what she wears, but for the teen and adult, I thought it seemed kind of repetitive if I included that. But so I altered it a little bit, still kind of piggybacking off the theme that I used for the child, but like without making it seem repetitive for the teen and adult. Okay, so I do believe that I'm representing my audience specifically through my table of contents, because there I'm showing like articles that I feel that they could appeal to. And for my distribution practices, as I said, I would distribute mostly digitally and subscription and few bookstores. And then for the softwares that I used, so for all picture editing, it was PicArt, Photolab, and Piccollage. Those were the 3 apps I used for all my picture editing. And then as for digital editing, I used Canva. And then I also used Google Docs and Blogger. Google Docs was, I kept everything there first. All my blogs, all my articles, everything. To make sure that I always had a backup copy of everything, just in case. You never know what happens. And then Blogger.com is where I recorded my whole experience through this magazine. And then the hardware that I used was my iPhone 7. For my iPhone 7, what I used there is it was all photo editing and photo taking. And then the other hardware that I used was my MacBook Air. That was where I did all my digital editing, all my blogging, and all my writing. And then some of the production skills that I feel that I have greatly improved in is photo editing and digital editing. And then I've also practiced a lot of my time management skills, being that this is a long project and I've had to pace myself to make sure I've got everything done on time. And then that pretty much explains everything, and I hope you enjoy as much as I've enjoyed making the first issue of #News. Thank you and have a nice day.